A tale as old as time. Who am I kidding? No, it's not. This video has a very simple goal. Psychologically manipulate Survivor production to one day fulfill all of our wishes and give us a showdown between Survivor franchises. In this specific instance, we're talking about what I believe to be the two most popular franchises across the world. The granddaddy OG who started it all in Survivor US, and the up-and-coming rising star who has caught the eyes and hearts of many over the past couple of years in Australian Survivor. Pretty much since Australian Survivor caught major international traction, this has been what everybody has wanted. Taking some of the icons from both franchises to meet together and battle it out for all the bragging rights. Who would do well? What strategies will prevail? How deep does this rivalry cut? All questions I personally want answers to. And that's what this video is for. To construct a cast that I hope can serve and feed all of those starving for this global war. Before we start moving into a cast, I do have a few ground rules I want to release before anything else. The first and probably most important thing to mention is that in this timeline, when this season hypothetically happens, will this air on Survivor US or Australian Survivor? And I think it's a really easy answer. This will be canonically a season of Australian Survivor. To start, this allows me to have 24 people on the cast, 12 from each franchise. More spots is just a much better time for me and I think all involved. But I also do want to have a level of realism here in this video. And to start with that realism, I need to make it extremely clear that there is no chance, and I mean no chance, that Survivor US would ever do this season. First of all, they're technically the biggest Survivor franchise in the world, so bringing over players from Australian Survivor may bring a lot of superfans extreme joy, but it's not a big enough audience or attractor to the casual audience that would benefit Survivor US in any way. And also, I just don't think they like Australian Survivor. They are so deep in this new era bullshit, it would be a complete 180 to willingly do this international Survivor season. While on the other hand, Australian Survivor would do this in a heartbeat, I think. If they could get a cast they would want on the Australian side and willing players on the US side to literally jump the border, this will happen sooner rather than later. And that's stage 1. Stage 2 will go to my criteria for this cast. Obviously, like I said, there will be 24 players because we're using the Australian Survivor format. 12 from each franchise. 6 men, 6 women on each tribe. That's the basics. When actually looking for players to cast, I had to keep things a little realistic. If somebody from either franchise will not come back under any circumstances, as we sit here today, they're not going to be on the cast. Simple as that. And I'll also be treating this as if the next season of Australian Survivor is this international showdown. So hypothetical filming will be in late 2024. That is also very important to this. And even with this format and criteria, these casts were difficult as hell to create and kind of annoyed me that I couldn't cast more people. I tried my best to balance out the tribes from a physicality status. I only added 8 winners total, which is still a lot, but that's 2 men and 2 women on each tribe. And once again, I kept things as realistic as possible. Who would actually consider if they got this call and be willing to fly out to compete on Survivor again in the year of our Lord 2024? That's a big point. From that initial premise I set for myself, I got a lot of names from both franchises. And obviously I can't cast everybody I considered, so I will be taking this time right before I reveal the actual cast to talk through the honorable mentions. Those specific names that were the closest to making the cast for me personally. Last thing I'll say right before I get into this, if you enjoy this or any of my content, consider subscribing to the channel. It would be totally awesome if you did. I'd appreciate it more than you could imagine. So, without further ado, let's dive into some honorable mentions. I'll start with Survivor US cause America or some shit, I don't know. I'll go chronological order by season, and all the way back to season 1, probably the person who was kind of the closest to making it on this cast on the US side was Richard Hatch. Like, he was legitimately on this cast. He's the first winner in the show's history, and he would be willing to come back. You can't really draw it up much better than that as far as legacy goes. The reason he's not on the cast is because, for one, he's gonna be on House of Villains Season 2, so there isn't too much of a desire to see him back on reality TV so soon. And when creating these teams, I know Australian Survivor is extremely physical, and I wanted to make these tribes as balanced as I could within reason. And there was another winner that I felt was equally as likely to be on, and would help balance out these tribes in that way, so Hatch was unfortunately cut for those reasons. I was also very close to putting on the Queen, Sandra, on this cast. She can say she will retire all she wants, but we all know if she's asked and the money is right, she'll be there. The only issue with me is that I can only have 2 female winners, and the other 2 were a major priority to me over Sandra, and she'd already competed on Australian Survivor, so it's also a little fuzzy and complicated, so I just dropped her altogether. Hate him or really hate him, Russell Hantz was very much considered to be on the cast. There isn't anything to say about Russell that hasn't been said. He was dropped by nature being the odd man out, and he's also been on Australian Survivor, so I think we know how he would do if he is on this season. First boot would be calling his name. Another man I was very close to casting on this season was Malcolm Freeberg. Kinda like Hatch, he was on the cast here. I can just see it now. Fan favorite in the US, goes over and wins over the hearts of the Aussie crowd. He'd be a perfect fit, and you can't tell me I'm wrong. Now, he wasn't cast because of the very lopsided men's side of each tribe in terms of physicality. Malcolm is an athletic dude, but I needed a really athletic dude in order to counter the beefcakes on the Australian side. I would love to see Malcolm, but when it came to this specific cast, he just kind of fell out of line. Aubrey Bracco was considered, at least for a moment, on this cast. The issue I had was she felt so out of place for Australian Survivor. She is the perfect US Survivor energy, but would probably be cast to the wayside in the Australian game, so she was cut. And there were a lot more honorable mentions I had, but I wanted to keep things more compact, so I'll cut it down to this last person, Mr. Dominic Abate. He would be so great on Australian Survivor television, but for one reason or another, it just didn't feel right. If he is coming back, I want it to be on a US Legends season, so he didn't end up making the final version of this cast. Now on to AU side. I'll try to be quick about this because there are a lot of names I considered, and this was by far the harder tribe to put together. I'm still mad at myself for some of the cuts I made. I'll start with Brooke from 2016 in All-Stars, just too star-studded of a cast to get her on. Same with Lee from 2016 in All-Stars. He would have been such a fun addition. I wanted him to get that true second chance, but the men's cast is unbelievably stacked and I just couldn't justify it. Mark and Sam are such big names that both were extremely close to making on this cast. I did not want to cast both of them on the same tribe again, but I thought Sam was very unlikely to say yes due to how terrible her experience on Blood vs. Water was with the fans, so that just left Mark, who was on this cast, but goddamn, only being able to cast 2 winners really fucked over Mark, because I simply could not leave these 2 other men off this cast, and Mark was the odd man out. But if this season actually happens, I would not be shocked by any means if Mark actually was on this cast. I always love me some Lockie, but that man is too much of a physical specimen and not good enough television to make this cast. Kinda similar to AK. I love AK, but come on, he doesn't stack up to this cast. I will always welcome Matt Rogers to my television screen at any time. Unfortunately, with a men's cast again that is just so unbelievably stacked, I couldn't get him on there. Shawnee is and will forever be an icon. She absolutely should be on this cast. I understand that. But I treat this the same way Australian Survivor treated Luke on All-Stars. He absolutely is and should have been on All-Stars, but competing on 2 of 4 seasons, potentially 3 of 5 at that point, is way too much and didn't make any sense. Same thing with Shawnee here. She's competed on 3 of 9 seasons. The only person to do so on Australian Survivor. Competing on 4 of 10 seasons is just too much and too short a time. She should be on this season, but because of the timing, I had to leave her off. Sean was too much of a physical specimen to have on this season, I'm sorry. And I really also wanted Janine on extremely bad, but I don't know the likelihood of her saying yes compared to some of the others on the list, so she had to be cut. And I'm so devastated I couldn't fit the Ice Cream Man on this cast and Harry. He's one of my favorites of all time in Australian Survivor. Again, when I say this men's cast is stacked, I mean this men's cast is stacked. Bring him on for All-Stars 2 though someday, just not this season. Can this man be the unofficial alternate of this season? Like, I'm just so upset he wasn't on this cast because every other situation I would have had him here. If this tribe wasn't already very good physically, he's a lock. And that's Simon. I love this goof, man, but I had to balance out the tribe somehow, and when I'm making cuts, this was the most painful cut possible, and it's just how it was. Haley was a cut because I think she's very likely to say no after playing 2 seasons in such a short time frame. I know she's getting married or whatever as well, so yeah, I dropped her. And finally, I'm finishing out the honorable mentions. I know it's annoying to hear people who didn't actually make the cast, but I just want to give a shout out to pretty much everybody from Titans vs. Rebels who didn't make the cast. This entire cast, except for like Tobias, is all-star worthy in my heart. But people like Eden, Eileen, Valeria, Alex, Mark, Caroline were all very close to making on the cast in one way or another, but just didn't. We have made it. These next 24 names will be the 24 that are casted on my hypothetical Survivor International Showdown cast. Our start back with the good old US of A, starting with those who first played on the earliest chronological season to the latest. And we got a throwback, baby. I'm so pumped to have this person on a hypothetical cast all the way back to Season 4. The winner of Season 4, Vesepia Towery. Oh my god, I would soil myself if Vesepia was on another season of Survivor, let alone an international showdown. I think she's very willing to go back on Survivor. If they're looking to cast a winner, I think she's one of the few that is very much willing to come back. And she'd be a blast. I've always been a Vesepia defender that she consistently gets overlooked and underrated. And this would be her opportunity to come back and prove herself. And who wouldn't want to see that? We're staying pre-Survivor Season 10 still, and this is a guy I'm very shocked hasn't been brought to Australian Survivor yet, considering how much he loves the show. But this is the prime season for him. It's Johnny Fairplay. He's never going to be back on Survivor US. It's just not happening. But goddammit, this isn't Survivor US. I know he was on House of Villains and wasn't extremely entertaining, but that's kind of a weird circumstance. I just think he'll bring it on Survivor. I just do. He's gonna pregame the shit out of the season, and I will be seated to watch him thrive or flame out every time. Just please give it to us. A queen I need on this season, and I think would be very willing to accept an offer, is Cirie Fields. Now, she's been on a lot of shows recently, none of them being Survivor. But that's the thing. I think Big Brother was such an awful experience for her that she would be itching to play Survivor again. A game that she can thrive at and dominate. And can you imagine Cirie Fields with Australian Survivor editing? That is a fucking queen. She's a legend of Survivor US history, would represent the season extremely well, and I think would do extremely well on the season too. That's a triple threat I need, and I think we all need ASAP on this hypothetical season. That's pretty much gonna do it for our old school Survivor representation, unfortunately. A lot of the big names or big players have kind of publicly announced that they're not going to be returning to Survivor or reality TV anytime soon, so it didn't make any sense to put any of them on. So we're going to move forward all the way to season 29, San Juan del Sur. This person's an icon in their own way. Give me
freaking Kelly Whitworth.
Of everybody on this USA cast, Wentworth is the one person I think is most likely to say no, unfortunately. But when I think about how active she is in the community to this day, how much she loves the game, I think if push came to shove, if they pitched an international showdown season to her, she would jump on the opportunity. And she's an icon of Survivor US, so she would fit right in and be a perfect match for Australian Survivor. And she's also one of my personal faves of all time, what can I say? We got another winner on this cast, the first one who was a part of the infamous Winners at War season. And just an icon who I love and need back on reality TV, it's Natalie Anderson. If any of the women from Winners at War are gonna come back, it's Natalie, and it's not even close. I know she's hungry for it. I understand she had a kid within the last few years, and that is a priority. But if you give Natalie the specific season in a game that is extremely physical, which she loves, she's gonna say yes, and I think it would be so much fun to see on her return. Pair that with her being a winner, an icon of the game, a big threat. I'm drooling for a Natalie return, and I think this is her best shot. Make it happen, Survivor. On to another winner, our first male winner to be on this cast, and this was very much a last-second addition. This man is the one who replaced Richard Hatch simply because he would even out the tribes physically, at least more than Hatch does. And I think it would be fun to see the ultimate hero amongst a cast full of villains play again. Give me Mike Holloway. This man got hosed on Winners at War by not getting cast over Ben, and this is his chance to get cast again. I know he's very willing and very eager to come back, and goddammit, he named the Mer tribe Murica, and you can't tell me he doesn't want to be on the Murica tribe? You're joking. I'd be very curious to see how he interacts on a cast that hopefully isn't extremely unlikable. Does he become an underdog again? I don't know, but I kind of want to watch this season so I can find out. Well, looks like we're going to get our final winner out of the way as well, and this feels like one of the bigger locks of the cast, at least on the winner's side. Adam Klein would be on this cast 10 out of 10 times, if asked. He's a winner, proved to be a fun character on Winners at War, a super fan to not just Survivor, but Australian Survivor as well. He's the total package to make it onto this cast. There isn't much more to say than that. I want to see Adam succeed, and on this cast and on this season, he gets that chance. Moving on to somebody I think a lot of people have wanted back on Survivor, but time has done her dirty with production or the fans remembering her. Chrissy would be a perfect icon to be back on this season. Australian Survivor loves their villain mothers. And is Chrissy not the textbook definition of a villain mother? Like, it's needed. Especially when I didn't cast anybody who fits that archetype on the Australian side. Chrissy can be the representation and get her second chance to just be iconic and not get robbed by some dumb twist at the final four to go with it. The final woman in this USA tribe is such an icon that unfortunately I feel is getting left to the wayside, kinda like Chrissy. So if there is an opportunity to get her back on Survivor, I'm gonna take it. Angelina, come on down, please. The epitome of the delusional edit. But I can't help but be glued to my television every time she's there. Unfortunately, I feel like with Survivor US, Carolyn has squandered most of her chances of returning. It still can happen, it's just a lot less likely than what it was right after David vs. Goliath. I think she'd be so fun no matter how long she's there. And we all need some more Angelina. It helps that I think she's very likely to say yes if her schedule allows it, and that's all I need to hear to get her on this cast. We're down to 3. 3 men to round out this tribe. 3 very new school players in very different ways, but I think they would all be so much fun because they represent 3 very different parts of the game. And the first one to say is one of Jeff Probst's personal faves, somebody I think will always accept the call, and was the heart and soul of the Edge of Extinction post-merge in Rick Devens. He's a big character, loves himself a twist and an idol, 2 things Australian Survivor also loves. They're a perfect match. And come on, you think Rick Devens will ever say no to another chance to play Survivor? You're crazy. This feels like a lock if this season ever happens. As much as I would hope a season like this can shine more light on Survivor pre-New Era, mostly because New Era players are much more likely to be brought back on a return now, there are 2 men in the New Era that are coming along in this ride. And this first person is probably the biggest shock on the entire cast, but I think he very easily would say yes, is a lot less likely to get cast on a Survivor US season, and is just kind of built like a fucking truck. And we need a truck on the USA tribe. Jonathan Young. Yes, Jonathan Young is cast for me. I don't know, man. It just feels so in line to be on Australian Survivor. You can't tell me I'm wrong. There's no justifiable reason because I'm not some big Jonathan fan, but he's huge and would say yes. And that's all I got. Welcome to the cast. The final member of the USA tribe is a very likable person, both on the show and outside of the show. And his clear love for Australian Survivor was the tipping point for me to get him on here. The original New Era Charlie Brown is headed to Australia. I would love an Owen Knight return. He's itching to have another chance at the game, a chance where he doesn't fail at literally every single opportunity. If anybody needs a second chance, it has to be Owen. And while I think he's very likely to say yes to another Survivor US season, in this hypothetical universe, the International Showdown is first in line, and Owen is free to join. And that will complete the USA tribe. And I adore this group of 12 with all my heart. But we also got another group of 12 on the Australian side. And if you thought this USA tribe was crazy, oh, this other tribe is one of the greatest ever assembled. And I can't wait to dive into it. I'm telling you, I'm so unbelievably in love with this Australian Survivor cast from the first to the last name. And I'll do the same thing I did with the USA cast. Reveal the 12 names in chronological order from their first season they played, starting with some Season 1 representation. And it's a queen who was on All-Stars as well, in Phoebe. She was the star of the pre-merge in 2016, and that gave her an easy spot on All-Stars. But I felt she was kind of given the short end of the stick there, and didn't get the shine as much as we know she can. But she would absolutely be willing to come back for another season. She's a big name for casual and super fans alike. It all kind of falls in line perfectly that I couldn't not cast Phoebe and pray she finally gets a deep run on her 3rd attempt. We are now the Season 1 representation. This time it's a man who was on both 2016 and All-Stars, and there's a 0.0% chance that Nick Iadanza would ever say no to the season and opportunity. He's such a massive fan of Survivor and the show that it's like a hypnotic trance if given the opportunity. And I mean, he's an icon of the show, the OG snake villain of Australian Survivor, who kinda like Phoebe, needs that redemption to make a deep run on his 3rd attempt out here. I would personally be rooting for him and would love this casting. There's nothing else to explain. And holy shit, we got a 3rd person from Season 1? Wowza, AU 2016, the joy that you are. However, this will be our first winner of this tribe, and somebody who's been rumored to come time after time after time with Australian Survivor, and I'm gonna confirm that this is the return on an international season. We get back Christy. Now, the biggest thing is that somehow, some way, she hasn't been back yet, which is insane. But we do know from the little grapevine that she was on Heroes vs. Villains, but dropped last minute. That's kind of why the cast was unbalanced between returnees and newbies because of the last minute dropout. But I also think for a season like an international showdown, Australian Survivor wants to get an insanely stacked cast, at least on the Australian side. And Christy is one of those names that I know they want back and will do anything they can to get her back. And hell, I would be very interested to see Christy return. So she's here, on the cast. Bam. The next person on this cast is beloved in the Australian reality TV world, and even with some controversial things here and there, I still think on the show, he's a lot of fun and just makes sense, and that's Luke. There's been no bigger tragedy than Luke getting voted out in Champions vs. Contenders 2 when he was so close to winning. Luckily he got his redemption on Australian Big Brother, but that's another story. So he should be a lock for this season, but he was actually very close to not being on this cast. Only because there's not a 100% guarantee that he would say yes to go back onto Survivor. However, with him being on the Traitors more recently, that gave me a lot more confidence to say it with my full chest that Luke will be very willing to return for a Survivor season of this magnitude. And obviously, we all know Luke is a big enough character that he will be delivering on his hypothetical third time out. 3 words.
The Golden God.
Yeah, there would never and should never be a season that is this important to Survivor as a franchise without the Golden God back on our screens to defend his title as one of the best to ever do it. All-Stars as a season may have sucked, but David was All-Stars. He's an incredible character, he plays it up for the camera, and clearly has a really great strategic game. But now that everybody knows that, it would be so interesting to see how he can maneuver and if he's able to survive with that massive target on his back. Especially when there's somebody else on this cast and on this tribe that is just as big a character, if not much bigger. And oh my god, I would bet money they would clash. And I need the Golden God here simply so he can clash with another character we'll talk about very soon. And wow, what a perfect transition. The person I was just talking about. A complete lock to be on this season. Are you shitting me? We would never do one of the most hyped up seasons of all time without King George. Come on. We all know why George is here. He's going to deliver for however many episodes he's on our television screens and will be captivating. But the main reason I wanted George here was for the showdown against the Golden God. These are 2 of the best to ever do it in Australian Survivor. And can you imagine that showdown between the 2 of them? Both of those egos could not survive together. And I will be depressed on whatever outcome we get, but so happy to watch that showdown take place. This needs to happen in my lifetime. I need both of these 2 back on a season together, on the same tribe, or we're gonna riot. Make this season happen, you cowards. Now we go from 2 of the biggest locks of all time to somebody that I think people will be a little more shocked to make it on this cast. But I think they are a big enough character on their original season to justify making it here. I know production loves them, and hell, I want to see them too, and see how they would interact with this cast. It's another king, but this time it's King Khan. I think the biggest dilemma here is if Khan will say yes. Because if he does, I think Australian Survivor will have him back in a heartbeat. And he did announce that he did decline Heroes vs. Villains, but I do believe that was mainly because it was so close and so soon after his first season that he just needed a break. But now that some time has passed, with a couple of seasons in between, why not say yes? Because I think Khan is very open to playing again. And that's what I have happening here. With a cast like this, Khan is so likable that even without the relationships and connections, he could shock everybody and do extremely well. Shockingly, I have another representation from Blood vs. Water. This one of the 2 finalists. But not Chrissy, instead I have Shay. Although I feel like her experience, like most people's on Blood vs. Water, wasn't great. If given the opportunity for a season like this, I do think she'd be open and willing to be on and say yes. And to add to that, she made a very deep run, is very physical, and that's something that the women's side of this tribe needs. I don't know if she's my favorite character in the world, but I think she fits for a cast like this, and because of that, she's here. Onto the lone heroes versus villains representation, we have the winner of that season, and that's Liz. Liz is mainly here because I did kind of need another female winner, and when my other options are Shane, no way. Pia, also no way, and Haley, it's a bit tricky, so Liz is a little bit kinda here by default. That isn't meant to say Liz is bad, because she isn't. She's a winner, she has connections to George, and isn't afraid to start fights or speak her mind. So I would enjoy a Liz return, but I'm saying she's mostly on this cast because I need another female winner, and she is most likely of the other female winners to say yes and return. And now we have reached the final 3 players, all from the most recent season of Titans vs. Rebels, and like I said, this season could have had so many returnees from it that I would not be mad at most of them by any means. But the 3 I chose feel like the best options to have, and to start, I picked the fun option of the bunch. No chance of winning, but we'll be here to entertain, and that's Kelly. I love Kelly, I adore Kelly, and everything she has to offer, and would bring a much needed break and space to just enjoy her existing while surrounded by so much strategy. We need somebody like that on the season, and I think Kelly would be an excellent choice. Will she say yes? I think so if given another opportunity, but I want Kelly at the merge and just see how crazy her antics can get, but this was a must-have for me and for this season. The last 2 feel pretty obvious and are some of the biggest locks to make a return in just any season in general, but especially for a season of this magnitude. Especially the first person I'll be talking about. You know Kirby's coming back. The next returning player season, whenever that is, if it is international or it's just an all-stars, you know she's gonna be here, and I will be here for it. She's a star and captivating television from a social and strategic standpoint, and underratedly has a great physical game. She's kind of the total package that also loves to be flashy. But now everyone knows that about her, and I think that makes her a bit of a target. So now we get to see Kirby play from the bottom to start and try to get back to the top. And with all the dynamics and relationships on this tribe, I would be glued to my screen and see how and if Kirby can wiggle her way to some power on this tribe. And if she does, she's gonna make a show out of it. She's the biggest lock of this entire cast, I'm gonna be honest. Give me Kirby all day, every day. And the final person on this cast, the final winner that we all knew had to be on, Kirby's rival turned ally and friend in Ferris. Come on, Ferris is one of my favorite Survivor winners of all time from any franchise. Pair that with being a major fan, not just to Australian Survivor, but US Survivor as well. He would be ass and he cannot possibly turn it down. It's a match made in heaven to get him on. And I will say something, Australian Survivor really does lack in diversity. And for Ferris to add that diversity while also being a winner and just amazing in every sense of the word, there was a 0% chance he was not going to be on this Dreamcast. And I would live and die to root for Ferris all over again. And here they are, our wonderful cast of 24 people, ready to battle it out on this hypothetical season. And I love me a Brant Steele. However, I think this video is running a little long for a cast creation thing. So I've decided I've done a Brant Steele of this season. I did all 24 episodes with this cast and watched what happened. And it is a wonderful disaster that I enjoyed the entire way. It runs just under an hour long. It's really fun. I had a blast making it. So I decided if it's wanted and people are looking for this, I can post a separate video that is this Brant Steele, where you guys watch along with me what happened here. I commentate, I give the play-by-play, and we see this goddamn fucking mess that was this season of International Survivor Showdown. So if you want it, I'm here. I will upload it. You guys can enjoy, but I'm just saying the option is there. The season is ready for all eyes to watch. But for now, we're gonna leave this video here and we can wrap it up. There we go. A really fun video idea that I enjoyed making from start to finish. I might be delusional, you guys can tell me in the comments, but I really want this hypothetical season to happen. Just make it happen, Australian Survivor. It would be a bloodbath and we will all be seated. And maybe this can bring back some good vibes and good energy that we have been missing from Survivor US as well. Regardless, that's gonna do it for me. If you enjoyed this video, again, consider subscribing and sticking around. It means more than you could ever imagine. If you want more casting videos like this for different shows, please let me know. And we got some more reality TV coming your way very soon. Look out for some Traders videos in the near future. I'm currently doing a full rewatch series, and with that rewatch will come plenty of videos. Other than that, let's get out of here. If you made it to the end of the video, I love you. Platonically, of course. And I will undoubtedly See ya when I see ya. Bye-bye.